this haunting video. It was taken just moments before a private plane filled with Instagram stars crashed after takeoff. Investigators say everyone on board was killed. Several of the passengers posted photos and videos literally minutes before they were to meet a fiery death.
Mariah, a model from Santa Rosa, California, filled her social media with photos snapped beachside around the country. 5 others on the doomed flight include model Helena Lagos and the pilot.
Friends identified the owner of the plane as James Pedroza. It's unclear if he was the pilot, but he posted video of himself taking off back in October.
Happy.
This social media video shows the moments just before 6 people died in a fiery plane crash on a golf course in Arizona. The group had just taken off from Scottsdale Airport, heading to Las Vegas. Seconds later, the plane, full of fuel, erupted into a giant fireball.
I'm about half a mile northwest of the runway where this traffic camera actually saw that plane taking off and within seconds turning and hitting the ground.
I mean, it sort of makes you wonder what really happened. Did the pilot see a green space and decide to put it down there because it wasn't going to go?
The official cause of the crash still under investigation, and there's still the possibility the plane was overweight.
If he indeed had 6 adults in that airplane, he's going to be not only overweight, but probably tail heavy.
What they're looking at is seeing if the plane was actually equipped to hold 6 people. They also want to know who was piloting this plane and what were their qualifications.
At 8:30 p.m. on April 9th, 2019, 6 people boarded a Piper Comanche, November 9456 Papa, for a flight from Scottsdale, Arizona to North Las Vegas Airport. Scottsdale Airport is arriving and departing Runway 3, and the tower is getting ready to close down for the night. With passengers loaded in, November 9456 Papa is parked at Ross Aviation, ready to taxi. Although very little footage of the accident exists, using audio recordings, flight track, and witness accounts, the final moments of November 9456 Papa can be recreated in a simulator.
Tower, binary ground south,
Who's calling?
It is unknown who was flying the aircraft at the time of the accident. And to understand what happened that night, you need to know a few of the people aboard. The footage of the passengers moments before takeoff, posted to Instagram and shown on news reports, is actually mirrored. Sitting in the left seat, usually the pilot in command seat, is 28-year-old nightclub promoter, part owner of the aircraft, and student pilot with unknown flight time. He did not have a student pilot license and did not have a medical certificate. The day before the accident, his flight instructor had texted him to warn about the weight of the airplane. The instructor knows he'll be flying with an airline transport pilot who is by the book. The student pilot doesn't know how to calculate weight and balance, and the instructor walks him through it. This will become important later. In the right seat, usually the instructor or second-in-command seat, is the 32-year-old airline transport pilot mentioned by the instructor as by the book in the text message exchange. With 5,200 total hours and certificated for flight instruction, he had renewed his medical certificate just 2 months before. Hours before the accident, the airline transport pilot had flown the student pilot's aircraft from North Las Vegas Airport to pick up the group in Scottsdale. With everyone loaded in, the aircraft was 135 pounds over maximum. The audio in this section is unclear, but the pilot on the radio appears to ask if Scottsdale ATC service is still being provided.
I'm sorry, it's mainly 945 Papa corner.
Not yet, but I can help you. What's your request?
Oh yeah, we'd like the Northwest departure. We're on.
Comanche 9456 Papa Scottsdale Tower, runway 3, taxi via Alpha.
3, taxiing Alpha.
It is unknown if the airline transport pilot and student pilot went over the weight and balance before the aircraft took off. And when they arrive at the runway, a witness reports what sounds like a run-up check of the engine. If there was a slight reduction in power noticed during the run-up checklist, it wasn't enough to either cancel the flight from Las Vegas to Scottsdale or the flight home.
Comanche 9456 Papa Scottsdale Tower, left turnout approved, runway 3, clear for takeoff, wind, calm.
The air traffic controller notices the wings rocking immediately after takeoff. The people on board have 70 seconds to live. After the airplane crosses the tower wings level, it is no longer rocking back and forth, but the controller notices what sounds like a lack of engine power and decides to ask the pilot if he needs help.
Comanche 56 Papa, experiencing any difficulty?
We're good. We're just a training lesson.
Despite the inability of the aircraft to climb, the pilot tells the controller that the flight is just a training lesson. There are many reasons the pilot on the radio could be unaware of the dire situation. If the student pilot was flying, the airline transport pilot could have assumed that the rocky start to the flight was due to the student's inexperience. If the airline transport pilot was flying, it's possible he dismissed the issue as an unfamiliar aircraft at its weight limit. Usually before flying with a new student, the instructor will explain the positive transfer of controls, which is when the instructor takes control of the airplane. They say, "My controls," and the student repeats, "Your controls." It is unknown if this was established prior to departure. November 9456 Papa is clearly unable to climb. It has begun a left turn towards its intended destination, but it is far too low. At this point, the golf course to the north is the best place to land without hitting anything. The aircraft contacts Scottsdale Tower, but the intent is unclear.
And 56 Papa, we'd like to.
Comanche 56 Papa, say again.
The NTSB report cites the probable cause of the accident as a failure of the pilot in command to maintain airspeed in an overweight airplane with CG loaded too far aft. Post-accident examination of the engine also revealed that the number 3 cylinder intake outer valve spring was broken. The surface damage observed on the springs indicated that the failure had likely occurred at some point before the accident and had gone undetected. It is likely that the failure reduced the available engine power that, although not detectable during previous flights, was more critical with the overloaded condition of the accident flight. Although the pilot in command is ultimately responsible for the safety of the aircraft, if November 9456 Papa was a training flight, it was potentially in the hands of someone who had very little experience compared to the airline transport pilot. The student pilot, having never flown an aircraft solo, would be unprepared to fly 5 passengers to North Las Vegas on his own.
We see it come down, it's obviously a big explosion. Was there any way somebody would have been able to survive that crash?
Not normally like that angle, I wouldn't think so.
Once 60 seconds had gone by in the air, it was too late for November 9456 Papa to recover from a crippled engine and overweight airplane. The golf course was the best place to land once past the runway. But if we back up a little bit to when the trouble was noticed by witnesses, the best chance for this group of 6 young people to survive was to abort the takeoff.
Comanche 56 Papa, experiencing any difficulty?
Do you think there was a misunderstanding in the cockpit of November 9456 Papa? What do you think happened? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.